What became so popular at your school that the teachers had to ban it? There was a game called Get Down Mr. President where everyone in an area would put their fingers to their ears like the Secret Service and the last person to do it would be tackled. It could start at any moment and would end up in a dog pile in the hall. I'm not gonna lie, I'm in my 30s and now that I know that's a thing, I'm starting that shit at work tomorrow. Gel pens. When I was in primary school there was this weird trend where all the girls would suck on the ends of gel pens so their tongues turned into different colors. They would trade pens with each other in the school bathrooms and sneak away from the teachers and go to hidden parts of the schoolyard so they didn't get caught. It was the closest I can think of comparing to a drug ring, but imagine it with 7-year-old girls. One of my friends was really popular because she was the girl who sucked on the most pens and would get caught in literally every class sucking on a different gel pen. And the teachers would always have to walk her out to the nurse as she would make herself sick and throw up. They eventually banned them. I tried it once and spat it out immediately because it was nasty and tasted like ink. Duh. I didn't get it then and I still don't get it now. I'm a teacher. A few years ago we had to ban applause. The kids would randomly start a round of applause and just keep going. It was unnerving. It was disrupting lessons, assemblies. Sometimes they would applause in the dining hall or corridors. Still don't know how this trend started or why. The other thing we had to ban was pilgrimage. They apparently learned the word in religious studies lesson. After that they would, in large groups, walk from one end of the school to the other chanting pilgrimage and basically knocking over anything or person that stood in their way. In elementary school my class was divided in 2 groups, penguins and rats. We would always go to our group for team assignments, for games, for anything really. Somehow an actual rivalry started to sprout until the whole school was divided in these 2 groups, with first and second years getting into actual fights and stuff. Pretty soon the principal cancelled recess for a day and went to each classroom to tell us penguin team and rat team were banned. Others did create some smaller animal named groups after that, but they all dissolved pretty quickly. In Sweden we had this thing called bogdhog, translates to gay pile. As soon as someone was on the ground lying, everyone threw themselves on, making a pile of people. In Australia that is called staxon. We did this in Germany and called it Schweinehaufen, which translates to pig pile. Acorns. My elementary schoolyard had several oak trees on it and dumbass kids would collect acorns and keep them in their desk. The problem was most of the acorns had worms in them which then escaped into the classrooms. Camo colors. They somehow banned it school-wide because they were gang colors. Camo gang. I was in middle school from 2009 to 2011. Bloons Tower Defense was huge. Everyone played it in any room that had a computer. The school had to install special blockers but people kept getting around them so they straight up banned Adobe Flash. Someone at my high school managed to install Quake 3 Arena onto the central server, so it was able to be accessed by any computer connected to the network. There were kids in my web development class playing against other kids having their study hall in the library on the other side of the school. Not sure if the administration ever found out, but the year after I graduated they changed out all of the Windows computers they had for iMacs. When I was younger, we played this where you'd draw a circle on your hand, and other people would try to draw a line inside of it. If someone was able to draw a line in your circle, then you were out. The objective of the game was to be the last one standing. It was small at first, but eventually almost everyone in my grade became involved, and it spiraled out of control. Chaos. Pure fucking chaos. Kids were tackling each other, running away from other students, disrupting lessons, etc. Teachers eventually began to talk to us about how far our game had gone, and started banning it altogether. Rulers. Year 10 in high school, for whatever reason someone decided to smack a guy across the head with a ruler. Then everyone went out and bought a ruler. Suddenly everyone was a knight with a sword. Staff kept confiscating them, but rulers are cheap, so kids just went out and bought them by the handful. They ended up banning rulers at a school. The kids who were taking geometry that year and needed them had to be assigned rulers at the beginning of class and then turn them back in. Hair flips. Circa 2003. Long skater hair was very trendy. Said kids were flipping their hair out of their eyes' face. An 8th grade history teacher went on a vendetta under the reasoning that hair flips pollute the air with hair dirt. Kids started getting detentions. That's a really stupid pretense, but I can understand why the teachers got annoyed with a room full of kids flipping their hair like they have Tourette's syndrome. My teachers in high school just mercilessly mocked the hair flippers until they knocked it off. We legit had a half an hour lecture in assembly because our year apparently said sorry too often. I'm English. People bringing in their Game Boy Color and playing during recess. Kids were getting mad they weren't getting turns and they were afraid of someone stealing games. Fucking Jeremy found a copy of Pokémon Silver the day after mine was stolen out of my backpack. Can't get too mad at the kid though. His brother was thrown in jail for murdering their mom about a year after that. Capri Suns. Kids were too stupid to figure out how to get the straws in and teachers got tired of helping everyone. That's hilarious and sad. Non-clear lunch boxes. Someone kept bringing booze into the school and started a whole trend. I think the only extreme thing in someone's lunchbox was that somehow an entire colony of ants had gotten in. Rubber bands. Kids weren't even using them to shoot at other kids or otherwise misbehave with them. Kids would buy packs of rubber bands, tie the rubber bands together, making like a big rubber band chain. It became a contest to see who could get a chain of rubber bands to stretch the farthest. You couldn't find a pack of rubber bands at a store for probably 20 miles. This was when I lived in a small town. So there wasn't a ton of stores in that 20 miles. Amazon or even public internet access didn't exist yet. One kid got so many rubber bands, they could stretch it the length of the school building. While stupid, I didn't think it was a bad hobby as kids weren't shooting them or shooting stuff with them. It was all about how big of a chain they could make. School rewarded our pointless creativity with a ban on rubber bands at the school. All rubber band chains were confiscated on site. I was in high school when cell phones finally became accessible enough for most people to have one. It took about a week of senior year for them to declare that no phones were allowed anywhere on school property. Same for my class. But now kids literally have theirs out at their desks using them and the teachers are compliant. Putting condoms on everything. Pens. People's heads. Arms. Bags. Shoes. Smart board remotes. Baseball bats. Clocks. Balls. Literally anything. The best bit was that the school gave out free condoms. They were fooling the opposition. After a week, there was a ban on condoms being out in public. Anyone seen with a condom that wasn't in their bag or blazer was immediately given a detention. In my college there was someone brought in to hand out condoms to people. Over the next few days Tide condoms filled with water kept appearing across a few of the bathrooms. Slap bracelets. I remember in the 80s early 90s when they got banned at my school. The rumor that went around school was that somewhere some kid had sliced their finger down to the bone with a cheap imitation slap bracelet, and now parents all over the country were pushing back. Fortune tellers. You know those paper origami ones? Those. And Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards too. Really? Well, nobody at my school knew how to make those. Those little skateboards tech decks. We used to trade them and cry over it. In 3rd grade, a few kids got obsessed with the words cheese, FedEx, and camel. They said them all the time and those words got banned for the entire class.